is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We now have our third and fourth episodes of the Hawkeye series, and oh my gosh, do we have a lot to talk about and break down with these two episodes. We also have a pretty big theory about what's going on with the Watch. We will touch on our theories after we give our thoughts on these two episodes, as well as talking about the drama that happened after the fourth episode aired on Disney+. Before we begin discussing this all, I just want to give you all a spoiler warning. If you do not want to hear about any Hawkeye spoilers or possible theories coming true, click off now and come back to the discussion whenever you have seen these two episodes. Let's start off by giving our thoughts on the third episode of Hawkeye that we got last Wednesday. The third episode was very action-packed and very entertaining. We finally got to see the Echo character in action, and she was great. The flashback scenes in this episode with Echo were also very good and very juicy for nerds. All I've got to say is Kingpin is on his way to the MCU very, very soon. I loved the character development and the backstory telling for the character of Echo, learning that her father was the former leader or the person who initially ran the tracksuit mafia. Getting those little teases at Kingpin were really fun, especially the martial arts class scene where we basically see and hear him with Echo and her father. I mean, just listen to the laugh. Sounds just like Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. In the third episode, Kingpin had at least 3 big teases constantly being mentioned as Uncle, and Clint referring to him as the one who runs it all and who will do anything to grow the entire operation, and that he is not to be messed with, which Clint is definitely right about that. The third episode being really action-packed and having some character building for the villains of the show brings us into the fourth episode, where we get tons of character building and story building for the heroes of this story. Clint and Kate's friendship is for sure getting better, except for the end of the episode, as we see Clint obviously does care for her, even though he consistently acts like he doesn't. The action in this episode came in towards the end of it, and man, it was really cool getting to see Kate versus Echo and Yelena's return as she fights Clint and then takes on Clint, Kate, and even Echo all at once. This was great, and her return was pretty cool. Now that our thoughts on these episodes are out there, we should really discuss what we think is going on with these characters and the story. First off, at this point, I think it is pretty obvious that the uncle character that Echo and Kazi consistently mention is Kingpin, just by the heavy footsteps we got to hear and the laugh that sounds identical to Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, as well as all of the connections and tie-ins that Kingpin has with all of these characters in the comics that are in the show. Some examples of these tie-ins would be Echo being Kingpin's adoptive daughter after her father's death in the comics. This seems to be playing out in a similar way in the series, as well as the character Kazi being in the series. Kazi is also a comic character that has worked alongside and has been hired by Kingpin multiple times. Kazi in the comics is often referred to as Clown. Kingpin hired Clown to kill Hawkeye in the comics, so some more tie-ins right there. Now to touch more on Kazi and the tracksuits. In the third episode, it is shown that Kazi is an employee of a company known as Sloan Limited. We learn more about this in the fourth episode when Hawkeye weirdly asks his wife to look into it, as if she has loads of information or access to some type of database that can give her more background information on these things. She figures out that the company that Kazi is employed under is ran by Jack, who is likely to become the swordsman character. However, I do not think that he's actually running it. I think Kate's mother is behind it, and she's taking advantage of Jack's gullible type personality to make him look like the obvious perpetrator, when in reality, she is the real one behind that part of the story, and possibly even more, as we do see her make a phone call to someone in the 4th episode after she finds out that Kate and Hawkeye are working together. Could she have called Kingpin, or possibly called Valentina Allegra? I think either is very likely. She also indirectly threatened Hawkeye in the 4th episode as he was leaving the building. It didn't sound like a threat, but it surely was. Kate's mother is definitely a likely person to turn out to actually be a villain type character. Now we have a pretty big theory that I've also seen other people mentioning in the community. This theory has to do with the watch that the tracksuits stole and who it belongs to. In the 4th episode, we get a lot of mentions and time spent on finding the watch and getting it out of the tracksuit's hands. Hawkeye mentions that this watch belonged to a former colleague of his that has their identity a secret and that has been out of the game for a while now. And if the watch was looked into by people who run the tracksuit's operations, it would blow their cover. Not many heroes inside of the MCU still have their identities a secret still. This basically takes all of the Avengers pretty much off of the book for the owner of this watch, because all of their identities are public. That is where Clint's wife comes in. Me and some others around the community suspect that the watch could belong to Clint's wife, Laura Barton. In the 4th episode, we got a lot of implications that Laura is very familiar with the same field of action that Hawkeye is in, and that she is very well thought out with this kind of stuff, free willingly to help him out time and time again, even speaking multiple languages so others don't know what she's saying. Her information gathering and her willingness to help Clint out has me and others believe that she used to be a SHIELD agent, hence why she can get information for Clint so often. Now, not just any regular SHIELD agent, we're talking about her possibly being SHIELD agent codename Mockingbird. Mockingbird being someone who has worked and was married to Hawkeye at some point in the comics. Some evidence that can back this entire theory up is the fact that Clint mentions that the colleague that watch belongs to has been out of the game for some time now. This is possibly because after Laura and Clint had their first child together, she had to step out of the hero role for the family to stay home and raise their children while Clint still plays the role of hero. Now, even before the Hawkeye series was released, some reports were actually going around, specifically from Fandom Wire, mentioning that Mockingbird will be playing a role in this series and that it won't be the original actress that played her in the now most likely non-canon TV series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This makes it even more possible that Laura is actually secretly Mockingbird. Now, why would the tracksuits be after this watch? Or should we say, why does Kingpin want this watch? That's most likely because he wants to blackmail Clint into bringing out the Ronin identity once again to protect Laura and his family. After Kingpin exposes her for being Mockingbird or attempts to expose her secret identity, further bringing out Clint's secret role as the Ronin, it would make it easier for Kingpin, Echo, and the tracksuits to get him out of the game so that they can continue to grow their operations without his interference. Let us know what you think about the theory. I believe that it is pretty likely, but it's possible that this theory is not true and it won't happen. But it is never too late and never wrong to have some nerdy moments and theorize about our favorite shows and characters. Now, after the 4th episode aired on Disney Plus, people realized that there was no Kingpin in this episode and no post-credit scene. This started a lot of drama between viewers of the Hawkeye series and scoopers that reported there being a post-credit scene in the 4th episode. We even reported these scoopers' tweets here on the channel when they mentioned a 4th episode post-credit scene. Now, with the drama, some scoopers that never mentioned a post-credit scene happening came out and actually confirmed that there was initially supposed to be one with Kingpin, but it was cut from the episode for some reason. One of these scoopers confirming it being Daniel RPK, one of the most reliable ones out there. Daniel RBK did state that Kingpin is still in the show and people shouldn't panic and assume that Kingpin was cut from the entire series, like how Doctor Strange was confirmed to be cut from WandaVision. I think we will be seeing Kingpin for sure in the last 2 episodes, most likely next week's, as it is the same week as No Way Home and the introduction of Matt Murdock into the MCU. Well, that's about it for today's discussion about the Hawkeye series, the 3rd and 4th episodes, and our theories about it all. Remember that next week is going to be huge for Marvel fans. We are getting another episode of the Hawkeye series and No Way Home, as well as the likely first appearances of both Kingpin and Matt Murdock into the MCU. We will definitely be seeing you all then. We cannot wait to discuss it all with you. With all of that being said, thank you all for watching, and if you're feeling extra nerdy today, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so that you can keep getting nerdy content from us. Who knows what power you will hold after you do so. We will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.
Here to tell you happy holidays.